Hi, my name's Gary Angel. I'm the CEO of Digital Mortar, but before I was the CEO, I was the analytics professional. I've been an analyst for a long time, starting out and spending many years in digital analytics. And a big part of the reason that I created Digital Mortar was to bring the power of analytics, the kind of stuff we did routinely in optimizing websites and mobile applications to the physical world. Today, I'm going to be walking you through a piece of how to use the DM1 platform, in particular the pathing piece, to do real-world analytics. So let's get started and let's take a look at how you look at the way people navigate a space using the Path Analytics tool in DM1. But before we go to the Path Analytics tool, which is up here in view, and you can see there's a whole bunch of different tools, before we go to that Path tool, I want to start in layout just to give you a quick acquaintance to the space we're going to be analyzing, because that's really important when you think about location analytics. Understanding the space is every bit as important as understanding what's on a website if you're going to be doing web analytics. It's a really simple space that I picked for analysis here. It's a self-service package station. It has a few major components. There's the entrance where people come in. There are walkways as people navigate the space. There's a work area in the center with a big table. There's a supply area over to the right-hand upper corner. There are self-service kiosks where people can work on tasks. There are boxes where people can store and pick up stuff. And then there's a drop-off area where people can put packages or letters into slots in the wall to drop them off. Okay, that's the space. Really simple. This is a real-world space. We're going to be looking at actual behavior within this space. So let's go into path analysis. And I think to start with path analysis, it's always good to start with a question. And the most basic question you can start with, and one you will get a lot as an analytics professional, whether you're working on digital or physical locations, is what's the most common path in my space? Now, that's a question that as an analyst, you're going to learn to hate, because it's not a very interesting question and there is no really good answer to it. And as we look at the paths, I'm going to say this right here is the single most common path in this space. People came at the entrance. They went through the walkways, they went to the drop-off area, they went back through the walkways, and they left through the entrance. That's actually a pretty interesting path. More interesting than you're going to get on a typical website where the most common path is always people who came on the homepage and left. Nevertheless, what you can see is as you look through the paths here, you can see that this number 2 path is entrance, walkways, through the work area, but spent less than a second, walkways, drop-off, walkways, entrance. That's the same friggin' path, right? The only difference is they touched on that center work area as they walked through the location. What's important to understand about paths is that paths tend to explode in cardinality. And on websites and in physical locations, the reason that happens are somewhat different. On websites, it's really easy to bounce around, right? You're one click away from almost any page on a website. But in a physical location, part of what makes for high cardinality is that people have to walk through an area to get to another area. So oftentimes we're looking at the navigation path, but not the interesting behaviors. Well, the path analysis tool gives you a really simple way to clean up this kind of behavior. And it's the first and probably the most important thing I'm going to show you in terms of using this tool. The path filter allows you to filter on paths. And you can say, hey, I want paths that are at least like 3 minutes long or 1 minute long. So I look at real behaviors. I can specify the maximum time in a path, the minimum path length, or the maximum path length. But the thing that I do most often here in path filters is to say, well, get rid of all the steps where people didn't spend a certain amount of time. That's for just get rid of these walkthrough areas. Now that's going to get rid of things like entrance. Nobody spends a lot of time. Many people spend a lot of time lingering in the entrance. So if I put 3 seconds here, those are all going to go away, but it's also going to get rid of a lot of the noise. Now I'm going to be looking at just the functional areas where people actually spent time in the location. So when I apply that, I can see that yes, the most common behavior is drop-off area, just dropping off. And then lingering a little bit in the walkways, drop-off and walkways, walkways, drop-off area, walkways. And then supplies, just going in and getting supplies. That's the second most common behavior. But you can see how applying that time filter has dramatically cleaned up the number of paths and made it much clearer to me exactly what the most common paths are. All right, I'm going to stop there because what I've shown you here is the basic pathing tool, how to get a path, how to clean it up a little bit in terms of the number of steps you're seeing, and how to answer the simplest and most basic question. One of the most common you're going to get as an analyst, what's the most common path on a site? The second question that I'm going to answer is a little more complicated. It's where people take off from that and say, okay, I get that people most commonly drop off, but suppose I'm interested in a particular area like the self-service kiosk. How did people get there? In part 2, I'm going to take a look at how you answer that kind of question in our DM1 platform. Thanks for listening.